change can be in a variety of ways. It can either be revolutionary change or evolutionary change. And generally speaking, I think what you would find is that the sort of revolutionary change that is sometimes the big flash is just that. It's a flash in the pan. And it's not sustainable. And it's a lot of fluff and not much stuff. And so the real work of change is oftentimes the evolutionary change, the drops in the bucket that eventually, over the course of time, add up to something substantial. And I think that's the kind that is more sustainable. It generally is going to require a greater sense of ownership and that you're going to engage people in the process. It's about everybody coming together in a sustained way, and it tends to be a little bit less flashy. And so the evolutionary change, I think, is wired in to the Resilient Region Plan from Region 5. A resilient region is one that has sort of, it can rebound, it can take sort of hits from the economy. So if you think about it, I oftentimes think about it as something that is diversified, and that sort of strength in the diversity of an economy, strength in the diversity of a diverse transportation infrastructure, strength in having different types of housing available, not just all one type. Strength in a robust healthcare delivery system that can cover the full range of human maladies. And so when I think about resiliency, it is that sort of, we are not overly dependent on any one thing, and we are building a community that is strong, diverse, resilient. The danger, I think, in the way that we have historically done things is transportation folks hang out with transportation folks. Housing folks hang out with housing folks. Healthcare folks hang out with healthcare folks. When we don't sort of cross-pollinate those groups with the perspectives, with the plans that the other groups are doing, then you run the risk of wonderful plans that don't take into account the whole. So designing a resilient region is about trying to do that comprehensively and sort of forcing the disciplines to come together to acknowledge the work that's going on in the other disciplines and to complement the work that's going on in the other disciplines with what they're doing, and vice versa. I kind of think of transportation sort of like the veins in the body that are carrying the nutrients around to the body. And the transportation is kind of like that same sort of a web of the way we move things. If we didn't have a safe and effective transportation infrastructure, we would have a difficult time with sort of the flow of how the economy works. If our roads are doing what they're supposed to be doing, if our rail systems are doing what they're supposed to be doing, we don't notice them. That's the measure of effectiveness. But when we have road construction, we sure notice that, don't we? When something isn't working the way it's supposed to work, then we notice it. I don't think anybody engages in any efforts that they don't see some kind of a return on. If I thought that doing transportation planning in isolation of everybody else was a better way to go, I'd do that. But I think transportation planning, taking into account what's going on in healthcare, what's going on in housing, what's going on in economic development, makes better sense. And so I think it is a more efficient and a more effective way for me to get transportation planning done right the first time. The reality is this isn't easy, and if it was natural, it would happen all by itself. And so this has to be intentional. And I think that's what sets this plan apart, is that there is a recognition that it is better for the community for the left hand to know what the right hand is doing, and that historically it has created problems for communities when that hasn't been the case. And so the planning process around the resilient region that is, I think, set Region 5's apart is the intention with which the community was engaged and the multiple disciplines that are doing planning efforts on behalf of that community were engaged simultaneously, together, in the same rooms, at the same time, and sustaining that over time. I'm always reminded of the Margaret Mead quote that said, "Never doubt that a committed group of individuals can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has."